We have certain themes on this channel, and one of the constant things I haven't actually talked about it in a while, but one of the things I always like to talk about, of course, is data. And data is such a crucial thing to us here in the UK because, as it has been explained many, many, many times, we are a service driven economy, meaning that we provide services to other countries, to other businesses. you know that is what we do, or we provide a service to a customer. That is what our economy is built on. We are, I think, 80 still an 80% service economy, so we rely on data and the free flowing of data to ensure that our economy runs effectively and is competitive in the world. But the thing is, sometimes you have to have follow other people's rules. So GDPR was great. Bit of a headache when it first came in, but it's not really that difficult once you get your head around it. You basically keep people's data safe. If you think you've had a breach, you report it to the information officer. There's all these sort of rules and regulations. At the end of the day, really wasn't that hard. And trust me, someone who works in like marketing and deals with has day-to-day dealings with data, we have to be up on that stuff. But it's really worrying where we see the UK wanting to diverge from things like the EU's GDPR to have our own GDPR with worryingly no clear strategy, as we're about to find out. And again, this divergence, when it happens, is basically going to mean there is now a digital trade barrier. And bear in mind, one already exists between sort of like the US and the EU. So these digital trade barriers do already exist. And if we diverge, up go those trade barriers. And the best way to describe it to people, think of the chaos you are seeing from manufacturers, stuff at Dover, and the chaos you're seeing at the moment with like airports, people sort of missing their flights and things like that. Imagine that happening, but also in like cyberspace. That's the best way to describe it, because that's the sort of people that don't understand or sort of interact. That's really the best way to describe it. You're going to be seeing digital traffic jams. So this is going to have a massive impact on our economy if they decide to go forward with this. And what's very clear is that they have no idea what they are doing. Absolutely no idea what they're doing. And what me and sort of other people that I've spoken to sort of expect from this is it's to basically be a carbon copy of GDPR with some very worrying deviations here and there, which basically means, again, that digital trade barrier comes up, and it's like, what was even the point? So before we go diving into this article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel, especially down below with sort of the Patreon page and the notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, the YouTube subscription button as well. And of course, the new YouTube thank you button as well. So as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel, even if you do click just the like and share button. So on with the show then. So this comes from City AM, the title of "The UK fails to define clear data reform strategy despite claiming the EU is complexity to its departure." In an attempt to try and cut European Union red tape once and for all, the government are pushing forward with its data reform bill. Moving away from the, quote, highly complex data protection laws, the government laid out plans in the Queen's speech this morning for it to depart from the existing General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, and of course the Data Protection Act. The government has called these two laws, quote, complex and prescriptive. They're really not. They basically protect data. Again, this is something I urge you to sort of write to your MP about to help protect people's data. And it has argued that these new bills will reduce the burdens on businesses as well as provide clarity to researchers on how best to use personal data. So basically, researchers can just go, oh, yeah, we're going to start using your personal data for all kinds of crazy things. And trust me, working in marketing, we can use your data for some crazy things. Trust me. It's kind of scary what I could do with a simple, Facebook ad to target people. Trust me, it gets kind of scary the level of stuff we can use to like target you with. Again, it should be regulated. Your data should be protected on this. And of course, burdens on businesses. How about a burden on a business if they get hacked and you're storing people's personal data? Stuff that they might want to know about that you've been hacked, storing their personal data. You then have to go and report it. And then the information, commissioner has to come in and say, okay, you got hacked. What are you doing to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because obviously this can have an impact on your consumers or the people whose data you are storing and holding. That's important. Yeah. Anyway, it continues. Although there was no exact detail on what this would mean in practice, the government said that it would streamline the data protection laws and reduce the burden on businesses. And this would focus on outcomes rather than box ticking exercises. So essentially, the person who did this, not surprising, Nadine Dorries, has absolutely no idea what she means when she's talking about those things at all in the first place. So, according to the analysis by the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sports, the DCMS, these reforms will create over £1 billion in business savings over the next 10 years, reducing burdens on businesses of all sizes. But what about the opposite effect? We've seen these claims before prior to Brexit. Oh, if we remove all this red tape, it gets rid of all this stuff. But what about what these regulations were put in place to do to protect people in the first place? Yeah. Commenting on the government's new proposals, the partner at the Charles Russell's Species, Jonathan McDonald, said that while it, quote, smooths the process in terms of direction, the government has actually yet to set out its position. The CEO and founder of Ethnica, in the New York-based privacy technology firm, Callian Cargan, also weighed in and expressed uncertainty towards the UK's plans for reform. He said that those concerned that the high data protection standards pose an impediment to innovation should consider that the data adequacy offers huge efficiencies in terms of both resources and planning certainty for UK-based companies doing business in Europe. Again, that's the big problem. If you are not, if you want, let's say I want to do business with Europe, I now have to prove to that European company that I am following GDPR, all their guidelines, everything. So again, it creates, as we've talked about before, about manufacturing, where it creates these problems for these manufacturers of having to create two production lines. It's exactly the same for data. He said, so what will, again, the innovation opportunity cost be if the UK compliance teams are now forced to spend years reworking data and transfer policies as a result of the adequacy with the EU? Again, that's the big problem. He suggested that the departure from the EU, the EU stuff may result in a significant drag to doing business rather than actual benefit. Jeopardizing the adequacy status could backfire for groups who see higher data protection standards as an impediment to innovation. And in order to preserve these data flows to promote collaboration, and again, the different jurisdictions needed to be able to bridge their requirements for data processing, he said. So, as you can see, this is going to cause a huge headache for so many businesses. And as you said there, this isn't a problem stopping innovation. This actually creates more innovation. There are businesses out there who see it as a net positive, that if they are doing business with people, they see that people who have like high data protection standards as a net positive for doing business with. And again, this will just cut out all our service businesses from now doing, business in the EU. We've seen what happens to manufacturing businesses that have done this. We've been over them. They've lost 20, 30%. So now what happens to all these service businesses when these data and regulation comes in and this digital trade barrier comes up? We will start seeing stories of service-based companies from marketing, HR, people providing insurance, banking services, start to lose business in the EU. And what happens? Exactly the same what we saw in manufacturing. They'll just move over to the EU. They'll open an EU office, and all that EU stuff will be dealt with in that EU stuff, meaning that, well, they don't need as big a UK office anymore. So, well, again, we've explained this, I don't know how many times to people, but they just don't seem to get it or understand what they're doing. They've not got a clue. And especially with Nadine Dorries, who seems to be behind this crazy idea, I don't expect anything, shall we say, seriously concrete to come out. But the fact that there is something coming out does make a lot of people, including myself and other people who are again in service-based industries here in the UK, very, very worried. And to anyone else, I'd say, just look at what's going on in manufacturing companies. That will be us in possibly again, depending on when this bill comes out, maybe in like 6, 12, 18 months time. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.